And joining us live now from London is Chris Doyle, Director and the current lead spokesperson of the Council for Arab-British Understanding. Good to have you with us, Chris. Now, in light of the suggestion by Israeli intelligence that Iran is preparing to attack Israel from its Iraqi territory, which perhaps is an attempt by Tehran to avoid another Israeli attack against strategic targets within its own territory, something it successfully avoided in Israel's last attack. Now, as someone who understands the region well, how do you view the current theater of war in West Asia?
There's a regional war. It's extremely dangerous. Many, particularly in Europe and the United States, had hoped that Iran would not respond, that it would keep quiet after the 26th of October Israeli strikes. And they still hope for escalation. But I think that, the whole history of Iran and Israel means the two sides are always competing, and neither wants to back down, neither wants to sort of look as if it's somehow surrendered or given ground. I think what we do see here, though, if it is true, and it is an Israeli intelligence leak, it's come out in the New York Times, nothing is certain, is that it is actually an indication from the Iranian leadership, if true, that the Israeli strikes on Iran on the 26th of October were pretty effective. If those strikes had been, as the Iranian media have been trying to make out, not very effective, didn't do much damage, then I don't believe that the Iranian leadership would be racing to come up with some form of response. I think if it is a response that comes from Iraq, it is a sort of mid option in that it can try to strike a target or targets within Israel, but not from Iranian territory. Now, there's no guarantee that the Israeli leadership won't see this as just an attack from Iran and continue with any response on Iranian targets inside Iran. So it's all very precarious. And I think that the region will be hoping that wiser heads will prevail and to see de-escalation not only between Israel and Iran, but on all the other fronts as well, and in particular because of the humanitarian catastrophe, the atrocities being carried out in Gaza, that there is a ceasefire there.
Chris, with the current war of words between the two countries, and especially with Israel also saying that it is prepared for any attack, would you say that the nuclear facilities this time around would perhaps be attacked in Iran, or would they still skirt around of that?
Much will depend on the nature of any Iranian attack if it happens. If it is very limited, I think that if it comes from Iraq, there probably will be a slight degree of limitation because there aren't so many Iranian missile assets, drone assets in Iraq as there are in Iran itself. If it is limited and very targeted in some sort of way and doesn't do much damage within Israel, then maybe an Israeli action afterwards would also be limited. But, this is where also, the international community has to play a role, such as it is. Talk of a community nowadays is, somewhat debatable. But the United States and other powers, regional powers, China as well, have got to say, look, it needs to be calmed. Already the oil prices are going up. It's not in anyone's interest. It's not clear that either Iran or Israel has achieved anything in their tit-for-tat missile strikes over the course of the year since April. So, it's really just dragging everybody down with them.
In the coming days, possibly before the US presidential elections on November 5th is when the attack is supposed to be carried out as per the intel. How is the timing significant here?
Well, who knows? It could be before, on the day, or just afterwards. I think the Iranians would like to make a statement. They may think that by doing it on election day, they can somehow grab more attention. Who knows? It's very difficult sometimes to unpick the thinking inside Iranian decision-making circles. There's different circles and layers of power from the supreme leader downwards. But I think that it is clear if there is any Iranian response, it is the hardliners who are still prevailing in how to handle Israel, how to handle its strikes. And, they would want to make a statement as much as anything for domestic consumption. They want to be able to say, we are not cowed by Israeli attacks, that we are prepared to take the fight to Israel, and we're not scared of them.
Chris, like we were just telling our viewers in our report, sources have told WION that ahead of the Iranian response to Israel, Iran's foreign minister will lead Iran's outreach to neighboring countries in person. How do you see that panning out, given the dynamics in the Middle East?
Well, Iran has some relationships within the region, but it also has a lot of states that, at least until recently, have been fairly hostile. But certainly most of the oil exporting states are nervous, particularly in the Arabian or Persian Gulf. They certainly don't want to see any further escalation. And I think they would also be urging Iran to, not go down that path. There will be others who will say, we understand why you may feel that you have to do this. But, it's very unclear exactly what will be achieved in any of this.
Thank you so much, Chris, for joining us on the broadcast today.
Pleasure.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.